The night before the college application deadline, our close friends group chat exploded. Holy crap! Chloe changed her application? Weren't you and Justin planning to apply to the Boston Fine Arts Academy together? Someone tagged Chloe. On the other end, Chloe's voice came through, lazy like she'd just woken up, mixed with the background noise of a game. Oh, you mean Justin? It's fine. He has my account and password. She paused, like she was chewing gum. If he sees I changed it, he'll just follow suit. Think about it. After all these years, do you really think he could live without me? I stared at my phone, fingertips ice cold. The clacking of mechanical keys was jarringly loud in the silent room. I left the group chat without looking at the application system again. She didn't know. She could change course for Tyler, just like that. But in my heart there was always a sky full of stars, untouched and sacred. That dream I fought for, through countless sleepless nights and reams of paper. It was never just for her. Chloe's words in the group chat felt like a cold blade, driven straight into my chest. The Boston Fine Arts Academy. That was the sacred promise we had sworn to chase on a warm summer night back in the 8th grade. I vividly remembered how we had sat on the grass outside the art studio, staring up at a blanket of stars after pulling an all-nighter to finish our watercolor portfolios. Both of our families had supported this dream, sitting down together over dinners to map out our future, weighing every single housing option and class curriculum. And now, with a casual shrug and a lazy tone, she had discarded it all as if it meant absolutely nothing. She hadn't even bothered to give me a courtesy call. In the group chat, our friends were still typing frantically. Chloe, are you seriously sure Justin will check your account in time? What if he doesn't notice and submits his application to Boston anyway? Chloe let out a soft snort over the voice note, the sharp chime of an in-game achievement echoed in the background. Of course he'll check. I know him inside out. He probably refreshes the portal 20 times a day, terrified that something might go wrong and we'll end up at different colleges. Ugh, you guys don't get it. Have you ever had a simp glued to your side since preschool? It's honestly exhausting. A chorus of half-joking laughter and enabling messages filled the thread. Even if he finds out, are you sure he'll change his entire future at the very last second? That's a massive risk. Another classmate chimed in. The background noise of Chloe's game paused for a brief second. Oh, please. Has Justin ever spent more than 3 days away from me since we were toddlers? If he doesn't follow me to the Southern California Art Institute, where else on earth is he going to go? The person who had originally brought up the topic finally backed down, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Chloe, isn't this a bit messed up? You should have at least told him. Chloe fell silent for a moment before replying, her voice tight with annoyance. It's too much of a hassle. I don't feel like explaining myself. Besides, it's not like I changed my mind for no reason. You all know Tyler's family situation. Going down south all by himself is hard on him. He's incredibly anxious about it. Having someone familiar nearby just makes him feel safe. The group chat fell quiet for a few seconds. True, someone finally typed. With Tyler's current situation, it makes sense to have someone watching his back. He's not like Justin, who's always locked up in the studio covered in charcoal dust. Put him next to Tyler and, well, yikes. Giving up Boston just for Tyler? Chloe, you're a real saint. All of that praise, layered over the repetitive chimes of her video game, leaked through my phone screen and froze me in place. My fingers curled into tight fists, my fingernails pressing deep into my palms until it hurt. I wanted to scream, to type out a furious paragraph exposing the sheer arrogance of her assumptions, but my body felt entirely paralyzed, welded to my chair. Eventually, I didn't type a single word. I simply logged out of the application portal, turned off my monitor, and let the darkness of my room swallow me whole. As the screen went black, the heavy weight in my chest didn't lift. The bitterness I had tried so hard to suppress finally boiled over. I stared at the ceiling, Chloe's words echoing in my ears on a loop. I couldn't understand how she could so easily throw away a dream we had spent years building together. We had pulled countless all-nighters, our fingers stained with graphite and paint, pushing each other to achieve the grades and portfolios required for Boston. Just a few weeks ago, right after our intensive art training camp ended, we had stood on the rooftop of the studio. I remembered the faint smell of oil paint on her collar, the nervous flutter in my chest, and the soft, quiet kiss she had pressed against my lips under the moonlight. Our hearts had been beating like war drums. Did that mean absolutely nothing to her? Was it just an impulse born of stress, while I had mistaken it for something real and lasting? Something inside me snapped. The hard truth was that Chloe had never been the sole reason I wanted to go to Boston. Everyone, including Chloe herself, had assumed I was just a shadow chasing her light. But they didn't know the truth. My father, before he passed away, had been an architectural designer whose final, unfinished project was based in Boston. His draft table had always been covered in blueprints from the city. Going to the Boston Fine Arts Academy was my way of honoring his legacy, of walking the path he never got to finish. It had nothing to do with her. Even if she abandoned the dream, I wouldn't. I closed the sketchbook on my desk, the one filled with our shared sketches and promises, and didn't look back. Just as I washed my face with cold water to clear my head, my phone buzzed. A video call request from Chloe popped up. My mind screamed at me to decline, but out of sheer habit, my finger slid across the screen to accept. "Justin, what is taking you so long?" Chloe's face appeared on the screen. She was sitting in a brightly lit diner. "We're all waiting for you at the usual burger joint. Hurry up, or Mason and the guys are going to eat all the wings." Familiar voices and laughter drifted from the background. It was our post-exam tradition, taking turns treating the group to dinner. Tonight was Chloe's turn. But looking at her face, I felt a profound sense of exhaustion. "I'm not coming," I said flatly. "You guys go ahead." Before I could explain, a deep, smooth voice cut in from beside her. The camera shifted slightly to reveal Tyler, who had leaned in close. "Hey, Chloe, is Justin refusing to come because of me? I don't want to make things awkward if he doesn't want to see me around your friends." Even before Chloe could respond, other classmates in the diner chimed in. "Oh, come on, Tyler. Don't worry about it. We're thrilled you're here. Justin is just, well, you know how he is. He can't stand seeing any other good-looking guy in Chloe's orbit. You'll get used to his moods." Tyler offered a modest, apologetic smile to the camera, looking incredibly sympathetic. "Chloe, maybe I should just head home. I really don't want to cause any drama between you two." Chloe's expression hardened instantly. She reached out, grabbing Tyler's arm to keep him from leaving, then turned a cold, frosty glare back to the camera. "Justin, come or don't. It's your choice. We aren't going to sit around waiting for you." The call ended abruptly, the screen cutting to black. A surge of cold anger rushed to my head. Without hesitation, I opened my contacts, tapped on her name, and added Chloe to my block list. For the first time in my life, I chose to shut her out completely. The root of the issue had always been Tyler. Ever since Tyler transferred to our art studio during our junior year, Chloe had treated him differently. He was quiet, brooding, and possessed a delicate, fragile look that seemed to draw people in. When rumors began to circulate about his father's involvement in a massive corporate fraud scandal, Tyler became a social outcast. But instead of keeping her distance, Chloe became his fierce protector. "Don't overthink it, Justin," she had told me back then, her voice full of earnest conviction. Tyler is just a classmate. His family situation is incredibly messy, and people are terrible to him behind his back. I'm just helping him out. And because I trusted her blindly, I had turned a blind eye as they grew closer. But in the spaces where I couldn't see, their connection had deepened into something else entirely. Now, she had rewritten her entire future to follow him to Miami, assuming I would blindly ruin my own goals to follow her. My phone buzzed again. It was a message on WeChat from a burner account. Wow, Justin, grown a spine, have we? You actually blocked me? Just wait until you get to the studio tomorrow. It was Chloe, using a friend's phone. I blocked that account too, without a moment's hesitation. The next day was the final deadline for application confirmation. Our homeroom teacher had called everyone back to the studio to sign off on our submissions. The traffic was brutal, and by the time I walked through the door, the room was already packed. I scanned the room and saw Chloe and Tyler sitting together. The seat next to Chloe, the one that had belonged to me for the last 3 years, was occupied by Tyler. He was casually spinning a paintbrush, and when he saw me walk in, he didn't move an inch. Instead, he gave me a subtle, almost imperceptible smirk. Chloe acted as if I were invisible, turning her head away to stare out the window, her jaw set. She was likely waiting for me to apologize and beg for her forgiveness, just like I always did. But not this time. I walked right past her and took an empty seat next to Mason at the back of the room, as far away from them as possible. "All right, everyone," our homeroom teacher said, her voice echoing over the chatter. "You have exactly 3 hours left before the portal locks. Double-check your majors, your housing preferences, and your campus choices. If you have any last-minute questions, come to my desk now." She had barely finished speaking before she was pulled away by a group of anxious students. Mason leaned over, nudging my shoulder. "Dude, what is going on with you and Chloe? The atmosphere in here is freezing." Before I could answer, I felt a sharp tap on the shoulder. I turned around to find Chloe standing behind me, her expression tightly controlled. "Justin, we need to talk. Outside now," she said, her voice dropping to a low whisper. I didn't move. "I have nothing to say to you, Chloe." Her eyes flashed with anger. "Don't be ridiculous. Go to the computer lab and check your portal. You need to make sure everything is set before the deadline." She was practically begging me, with her eyes, to look at her changed application so I would follow her to Miami. "My application is already submitted and locked," I replied coldly, turning back to Mason. Chloe stood there for a moment, her breath hitching, before she spun on her heel and marched back to Tyler. Once the class was dismissed, Mason dragged me out of the building. "You look like you're about to explode, man. My buddy is hosting a birthday party at that new motorcycle-themed bar downtown. You're coming with me. No excuses." I didn't have the energy to argue, so I let him pull me along. But when we arrived at the venue, my heart sank. Chloe's group of friends was already there, occupying a large VIP booth near the back. The bar was loud, filled with the roar of engines and heavy rock music. I tried my best to blend into the crowd, sitting at the counter and nursing a cold beer, but fate had other plans. On my way to the restroom, a hand clamped down on my shoulder. I turned to find Chloe blocking the narrow hallway. "Justin, what is your problem?" she demanded, her voice tight with frustration. "Aren't you tired of this childish silent treatment? We're supposed to be adults now." Blocking my number, ignoring me in class. "Don't you think you're being incredibly petty?" I looked at her, a bitter smile touching my lips. "Childish? Chloe, the only thing that's childish is your belief that the entire world revolves around you. I'm just tired of playing along with your little games." "What games?" she snapped, her cheeks flushing. "I'm trying to help a friend who actually needs me." Before I could respond, Tyler appeared from the shadows of the hallway. He stepped between us, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Hey guys, please don't fight. Justin, if this is about me, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to come between you and Chloe. Please, let's just resolve this. He reached out, his hand wrapping tightly around my wrist to hold me in place. The grip was surprisingly firm, his nails digging into my skin. Let go of me, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous register. Justin, please, just listen to her, Tyler pleaded, his face a mask of pure innocence. I wrenched my arm back with force, breaking his grip. The sudden movement caught him off guard, and he staggered backward, bumping hard against the wall. Justin, what are you doing? Chloe yelled, stepping in front of Tyler as if protecting him from a monster. He was just trying to help. You're the one being incredibly hostile and petty. We're all going to the same college in Miami anyway, so why can't you just grow up and get along? I stared at her, the last lingering trace of affection in my heart evaporating into nothingness. You two deserve each other, I whispered. Have a great life in Miami. I turned my back on them and walked out of the hallway, ignoring her furious calls. Back in the main room, the party had shifted into a game of truth or dare. I sat back down next to Mason, attempting to ignore the tight knot in my chest. Tyler, truth or dare? Someone shouted over the music. Dare, Tyler replied with a quiet smile. I dare you to slow dance with the most beautiful girl in the room. The crowd erupted into cheers and whistles. Tyler's gaze slowly swept across the circle before landing on Chloe. He reached out a hand, his tone playful. Chloe, save me from embarrassment? Chloe hesitated, her eyes flickering to me. There was a clear challenge in her look, as if she were waiting for me to stand up, object, and make a scene. I didn't react. I simply picked up my beer and took a slow sip, my expression completely blank. Seeing my lack of response, Chloe's jaw tightened. She stood up, took Tyler's hand, and walked to the center of the floor. The DJ transitioned the music to a slow, sultry beat. Tyler wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close, while Chloe rested her hands on his shoulders. They moved in perfect sync, their bodies pressed together in a way that felt entirely too intimate. The crowd cheered, snapping photos and videos. The sight felt like a physical blow to my chest, making it hard to draw a clean breath. I stood up, muttered a quick excuse to Mason, and walked out of the bar into the cool night air. I walked back to my apartment in silence. By the time I collapsed onto my bed, the clock read 11:50 p.m., 10 minutes left before the application portal closed forever. My phone rang, displaying an unknown local number. I answered it, my voice hoarse. Hello? Justin? Chloe's voice came through the receiver. She sounded tipsy, her words slightly slurred. Don't be mad anymore, okay? Be a good boy and change your application to Miami. It's really beautiful down here, the weather is warm, and the beaches are incredible. Once we get settled, I'll take you out to all the best art galleries. I promise. There was a strange, desperate sweetness in her tone, a stark contrast to her anger from earlier. Goodbye, Chloe, I said quietly, and hung up the phone. I didn't change a single thing on my application. I let the timer run down to midnight, watching the portal lock my submission to the Boston Fine Arts Academy. The next morning, I was woken up by a frantic text from Mason. It was a screenshot of Tyler's Instagram story, posted at 3:00 a.m. The photo showed Chloe lying asleep on a plush hotel bed, her hair tangled across the white sheets, looking vulnerable and soft. The caption read, 99 steps forward for your one step back. Worth it. Now everything is exactly where it belongs. The group chat was already in a frenzy of speculation and gossip. Oh my god, did they actually? So Chloe and Tyler are official now? Where is Justin? Is he okay? I stared at the screen, expecting to feel a devastating wave of heartbreak. Instead, a profound sense of relief washed over me. The heavy chains of the last 18 years had finally been broken. I was free. A sudden knock on my door startled me. I opened it to find Chloe standing on the threshold. She had dark circles under her eyes, her clothes looked slightly rumpled, and she was holding a paper bag from my favorite local bakery. She offered a tentative, nervous smile. "Hey, I brought your favorite cinnamon rolls. I had to wait in line for 30 minutes to get them fresh." I didn't step aside to let her in. "What do you want, Chloe?" Her smile faltered, her shoulders dropping. "Justin, can we please just stop fighting? I know you're upset about the application, but we can still plan a great summer trip together. I was thinking we could drive down to Santa Fe to see the historic Pueblo murals. You've been talking about wanting to study them for years." She reached out, attempting to brush a stray lock of hair from my forehead, but I stepped back, avoiding her touch. "I'm not going to Santa Fe with you," I said flatly. Chloe's temper flared instantly. She shoved the bag of pastries into my chest, her voice rising. "Why are you being like this? I came here to make peace." "Yes, Tyler is coming to Santa Fe too, but so what? It's a massive city. We won't even have to see him if you don't want to. Why do you have to ruin everything over your petty jealousy?" "It's not jealousy, Chloe," I said, placing the bag on the hallway table. "It's boundaries. I don't want to be a part of your life anymore. Please leave." "Fine," she screamed, her eyes welling with tears of anger. "Keep acting like a martyr. Let's see how much you enjoy freezing up north in Boston all by yourself. Don't come crawling back to me when you realize you have nobody left." She turned and stormed down the hallway, her heels clicking loudly against the hardwood floor. I closed the door, locked it, and threw the bag of cinnamon rolls straight into the trash. To escape the toxic atmosphere of our hometown, I packed a single suitcase and took a last-minute flight to San Diego to stay with my uncle for the rest of the summer. San Diego was exactly what I needed. The endless blue skies, the cool ocean breeze, and the laid-back culture slowly began to heal the exhaustion that had settled deep into my bones. My uncle, a rugged fisherman, didn't ask any questions about my sudden arrival. Instead, he took me out on his boat every morning, teaching me how to cast lines and catch crabs at low tide. I spent my afternoons hiking along the cliffs of Torrey Pines, sketching the dramatic landscapes in my new notebook. I posted a few photos on Instagram, the sparkling ocean, a plate of fresh fish tacos, and a simple caption: "Ocean breeze and cold beer. Perfect." My phone blew up with comments from Mason and our other high school friends. "Dude, you look incredible. Where is this? Let me join." For the first time in years, I was living for myself, not as an accessory to someone else's drama. A week later, the official acceptance package from the Boston Fine Arts Academy arrived at my mother's house, and she forwarded a photo of the letter to me. I had been admitted into the prestigious Department of Architectural Design with a partial scholarship. My fingers trembled slightly as I read the words. My father's dream was finally within my reach. But the celebration was cut short by a frantic call from my mother. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "Justin, it's your grandfather. He had a severe heart attack this morning. He's in the ICU at Boston General Hospital." "I'm coming home, Mom," I said, my heart racing. "I'll book the next flight to Boston." I packed my bags, thanked my uncle, and flew straight to Boston. At the luggage claim in Boston Logan Airport, I was waiting for my suitcase when I heard a familiar voice laugh. I turned around and froze. Chloe, Tyler, and their group of friends were standing just a few feet away, surrounded by heavy luggage. Apparently, their summer trip to Santa Fe had ended early, and they were returning home. Chloe turned and met my gaze. The absolute shock on her face was unmistakable. She stared at me, her eyes widening as she took in my appearance. During my weeks in San Diego, I had completely transformed. I had ditched my heavy, black-rimmed glasses for contacts, got a sharp, modern haircut from a trendy salon, and traded my baggy, paint-stained hoodies for well-fitted workwear shirts. I looked taller, broader, and carried myself with a quiet confidence that she had never seen before. Tyler looked equally stunned, his smirk completely vanishing as he took in the change in my demeanor. Chloe broke away from her group and walked over to me, her voice tentative. "Justin, is that really you? You look so different." "Hey, Chloe," I said, my tone completely polite but entirely distant. "Are you back in town? Why didn't you tell me?" "My mom said you went to San Diego," she rambled, her eyes searching my face for any sign of the old, desperate Justin. "My grandfather is in the ICU," I explained calmly as my suitcase appeared on the carousel. "I'm heading straight to the hospital." "Oh, I'm so sorry," she whispered, looking genuinely flustered. "Do you need a ride? Tyler has his car here." "No, thank you. I've already called an Uber." I cut her off, pulling my suitcase off the belt. "Have a safe trip home." I turned and walked away, not looking back once. I spent the next 2 weeks at Boston General Hospital, sitting by my grandfather's bedside. My mother had to return home to manage her job, and my aunt was in poor health, so I volunteered to stay in Boston to take care of him. During this time, Chloe's graduation party took place back in our hometown. I didn't go, nor did I send a card. Chloe called me repeatedly during the night of her party, her anger boiling over. When I didn't answer, her mother called my phone. "Justin, sweetheart, is everything all right?" her mother asked gently. "Chloe is completely devastated that you didn't show up. She's been crying in her room all evening." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Vance," I said quietly. "But my grandfather is still in critical condition, and I need to be here for my family." Before her mother could respond, I heard the phone being snatched away. Chloe's voice came through the line, trembling with rage. "Justin, stop using your grandfather as an excuse to punish me. It's my graduation night, the most important night of my life, and you couldn't even bother to show up. How can you be so incredibly selfish?" I let out a soft, tired sigh. "Goodbye, Chloe." I hung up and blocked her mother's number as well. My grandfather's condition slowly stabilized over the next few weeks, and he was eventually discharged to a rehabilitation center. By then, the fall semester was about to begin. I moved into my dorm at the Boston Fine Arts Academy, a beautiful brick building overlooking the river. The energy of the campus was electric. My roommates were incredibly friendly, and I quickly adapted to the fast-paced, challenging environment of the design department. One afternoon, while I was sketching in the campus courtyard, a shadow fell over my notebook. I looked up to find a tall, elegant girl with long auburn hair and a cool, aloof expression standing in front of me. She was wearing stylish glasses and carried a portfolio from the sculpture department. "You're Justin, right?" she asked, her voice calm and clear. "Yes, that's me." "I'm Avery," she said, offering a small, rare smile. She reached into her portfolio and handed me a rolled-up sheet of heavy paper. "I've seen you sketching in the courtyard every day. I made this for you." I unrolled the paper to find a stunning, expressive charcoal sketch of myself, capturing the quiet focus in my eyes. "Thank you, Avery," I said, genuinely touched. "This is beautiful." "I'd like to get to know you better," she said, her cheeks flushing slightly. "Maybe we could grab a coffee sometime?" "I'd like that very much," I replied, smiling. The next evening, as I was walking back to my dorm after a late lecture, I froze. Chloe was standing near the entrance of my building. She looked exhausted, her hair slightly messy, holding a heavy suitcase. The cool autumn wind was blowing her white dress around her ankles. When she saw me, her eyes lit up and she ran toward me. "Justin, I've been waiting here for 3 hours." "Chloe, what are you doing here?" I asked, my brow furrowing. "I flew all the way from Miami," she said, her voice trembling. "I couldn't handle the distance anymore. I realized I made a mistake. Tyler is just a friend, Justin. I don't care about him the way I care about you. Please, tell me we can fix this." Just then, the door to the dorm opened, and Avery walked out, holding a folder. She paused when she saw us, her gaze shifting between Chloe and me. "Yes, Avery, I'll join you in a minute," I replied. Chloe's eyes narrowed as she looked at Avery, her expression twisting with a sudden, ugly jealousy. "Who is she, Justin? Is this why you've been ignoring me? For some shallow girl you met a couple of weeks ago?" I stepped between them, my voice dropping to a cold, hard tone. "Watch your mouth, Chloe. Avery has nothing to do with this." "Avery, please give us a minute," I said. Avery nodded politely and walked down the path, leaving us alone in the dim courtyard. Chloe turned back to me, tears spilling over her eyelashes. "Justin, please, you have to understand. I only helped Tyler because he was so broken. I didn't think it would ruin what we had. You've always been there for me. You had my password. Why didn't you just change my application back? Why did you let me go to Miami alone?" "Because it wasn't my responsibility to save you from your own choices, Chloe," I said, my voice steady and completely calm. "You assumed I was just a shadow, a puppy that would follow you wherever you went. But you never actually cared about my dreams." "What are you talking about?" she cried. "We always wanted to study art together." "You wanted to study art. I wanted to come to Boston to finish the work my father started," I said, holding up my design portfolio. "But you never once asked me why Boston was so important to me. You just assumed I was following you. The moment you chose to change your application for Tyler, you showed me exactly where I stood in your life." Chloe stood frozen, her lips parting as she realized the gravity of what she had thrown away. "Justin, I didn't know." "I know you didn't," I said gently, "because you never bothered to ask." I turned on my heel and walked toward the gate where Avery was waiting for me. I didn't look back at Chloe, who was left standing alone in the falling leaves, her crying echoing softly in the quiet courtyard. Years later, after graduating at the top of my class, I joined a prestigious architectural firm in Boston, eventually becoming a lead designer. Avery's acceptance and stunning sculptures gained recognition, and we built a beautiful, quiet life together in a loft overlooking the city. Occasionally, I would hear updates about Chloe from Mason. She had dropped out of the Miami Art Institute after a year, unable to handle the pressure, and had moved back to our hometown. But those stories felt like dust from a completely different lifetime. The long, dark night of my youth had finally broken into a brilliant, beautiful dawn.